Jackie, nearly every major city in America now seeing a spike in violent crime as Attorney General Merrick Garland vows to crack down on gun trafficking. For the situation in his state, we'll bring in Democratic Congressman from California, a member of the House Financial Services Committee, Brad Sherman. Congressman, thank you for taking time. And we've got to get to that infrastructure. But crime is on the minds of a lot of Americans, coast to coast from here in D.C., where you spend time. We saw this horrific shooting here in the 14th Street area, a lot of restaurants where people go, all the way out to California where you've got this shoplifting. What is your sense about this situation?
COVID has upset everything in our society and has pulled the social fabric apart. I look forward to getting back to normal, especially when we can get almost everyone vaccinated. That being said, some extreme voices in the Democratic Party are quoted as saying defund the police, but hundreds of my Republican colleagues have voted to defund the police. You see, in our society, police are paid for by cities.
How is that, sir? Let me stop you there for a second.
Well,
it's
simple. City governments spend the lion's share of their budget on police. City budgets were in a tailspin because of lost revenue because of COVID, particularly when people weren't in the stores and weren't at the restaurants and were not paying sales tax. When city budgets had that tailspin and were looking to defund police and defund everything else that cities do, Democrats stepped up and made sure that cities could continue operations. And their number one operation, police.
All right, well, so you have to follow the dots there. I'm not sure everyone makes that same connection.
Well, it's very simple, Griff. If you don't fund cities, you can't fund police.
Right.
Police work for cities.
Congressman, let me play a soundbite for you. In the last segment, a couple segments ago, we had your colleague, a Republican member, Jason Smith, who says the blame on this rise in crime is really on what he calls the woke liberals in failure to prosecute these crimes. Take a listen. I want to get your reaction.
This prosecutor and so many other prosecutors across this country, whether it's in San Francisco, Washington, D.C., they care more about woke liberal defunding the police strategies than they do about making sure that murderers are locked up permanently.
Your reaction, sir?
Well, we have a couple of places in the country where prosecutors have taken a particular turn. But we see, as you said, and when you started this segment, a rise in crime in all of our cities. So it's clear that this rise in crime is not confined to those cities that have had a change in their prosecutorial policies. The rise in crime has come in significant part, because of the psychological and physical and economic effects of COVID. And if we get vaccinated, we can put that behind us.
Congressman, let's turn the topic a little bit, because I did promise infrastructure, and we got to get into it because it looks like there may be a bipartisan deal as it relates to physical infrastructure, possibly on Monday, but yet a lot of Republicans saying that it is a, quote, hostage situation because Speaker Pelosi will not take it up unless it also includes that $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation measure that includes things like climate change and child care.
The fact is, it's hard to accuse Pelosi of hostage taking when the hostage doesn't exist yet. The bill hasn't been written. When the bill is written, and if it passes the Senate, we'll deal with it in the House. But my expectation is that we'll deal with two bills as a tandem, a reconciliation bill and a bipartisan bill. And we should deal with them in tandem. They are both focused on the same thing. They involve huge additional amounts of spending, and it would be crazy to look at one bill while covering your eyes and not noticing that there's a second bill. The bills have to be part of an overall economic and infrastructure strategy.
So if I understand correctly, you're supporting your Speaker Pelosi's vow to take up both and won't take up either until both come to the House. Talk to me about timing. Is that possible to get done before your August recess?
Well, I don't think the Senate will act in time for us to deal with what they're going to be voting on in the Senate. Does not pass a bill over to us. The fact is, this is an 8-year bill, and taking 8 weeks to take a look at it is not an undue delay.
And finally, is it your sense, as you're in the majority, House Democrats, that you are frustrated, Congressman, with the Senate's lack of moving this quickly, and that perhaps you should find another path?
Well, we have 2 paths. What we don't get the first path, we'll get the second path. The amount we get will depend upon what Joe Manchin is willing to vote for. Ultimately, House Democrats will be disappointed that we're not getting everything we'd like to see. But I've been to West Virginia. I know the politics there just a little bit. And I understand that until we get more Democratic senators, we will not get the level of progressive government that I'd like.
10 seconds left, Congressman. Filibuster stays or goes?
Mr. Manchin and others have made it plain that they plan to keep the filibuster. We're trying to get an exception carved for voting rights. So far, it doesn't look like we can get that. Democracy requires the repeal of the filibuster. But keep in mind, that filibuster was harmful to Trump's agenda back in 2017, 2018.
Congressman Brad Sherman, thank you for taking time. Very insightful thoughts. Come back and visit us again. Thank you.
Good.